Good day and welcome to Spartan Entertainment Electronics. I'm your host Ryan. Recently I got my pilot's license from EA and have been busy flying starships around the galaxy. Today I'm bringing you my thoughts on that experience and trying to help you decide if it might be for you. Before we jump into the review, if you're new to the channel or just haven't done so yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I typically upload one video a week on Saturday mornings. Have you subscribed yet? At the end of the video, be sure to click the thumbs up button if you like this to help in letting me know if I should keep making content like this. Alright, let's punch it and see if I think Star Wars Squadrons is a smash hit or a trash flick. Star Wars Squadrons was developed by Motive Studios and published by Electronic Arts, originally announced in June during EA Play livestream and released October 2nd, 2020. The launch has been relatively quiet. There wasn't a massive amount of information or hype moving about the old interwebs prior to launch day. It was a nice change of pace. I also appreciated early on that this seems to be a AAA title from a major franchise coming in at a lower cost than most AAA titles. I picked it up for $54.99 Canadian or $39.99 US. It features VR capability, multi-platform access, and crossplay. I haven't spent a large amount of time in multiplayer modes as of yet, but I do know I am enjoying the fleet battles. I like the objective-based, multi-stage combat and the challenge of having more limited resources. I also appreciate that the tide can flow back and forth between the two sides as the battle progresses. I'm not as big of a fan of the dogfight mode, but that's just because I'm not super great at it. I'm okay, but I lose more matches than I win. It's still a fun and fairly intense mode, but I prefer fleet battles. Throughout the campaign and multiplayer, there is opportunity to fly all the starships. My personal favorites are the TIE Interceptor and X-Wing. I find the movement of these two ships to be more fluid and natural feeling, and while they're two different classes, I find them to fly in a similar manner. I found that the standard TIE and A-Wing were also more similar to each other in how they feel, but that's just my experience with them. My least favorite was the support class ships on both sides. They're clunky, don't have a lot of mobility, and are a slow sauntering target. Quite often I find you don't get covered while flying them. I was so excited to see the Reaper. Only to be disappointed with how flat and unenthusiastically it flies. I didn't find there to be much of any exhilaration flying the Reaper or U-Wing, which is really disappointing. The whole point of the game was to feel childhood joy no matter what ship I jumped into and fly, and these two just didn't cut the mustard. The bombers were okay to fly. It would have been nice if the TIE bomber had either a shield or more travel speed. It also borders on an easy target, which is disappointing as the Y-Wing is a lot of fun to fly and feels a lot more powerful. It seems like a bit of work needs to be done addressing the balancing of the fighters. I'd like to be able to jump into any ship and have a good time and not be left feeling as though I have to use the meta. I spent a fair amount of time in the cockpit of each ship looking around, and I am happy with the amount of detail, with it seeming that each was handcrafted. There didn't look to me to be any copy and pasting between the cockpits. I don't have a virtual reality setup yet and haven't had a chance to play it in that format, which is sad because I think Squadrons will absolutely excel through that media. I will replay the campaign once I have VR capabilities available to me. Speaking of the campaign, I enjoyed about 95% of it. What I did not enjoy was how quickly the difficulty ramped up towards the final 4 missions. The gameplay was fairly straightforward and achievable on Veteran, the second hardest difficulty of 4, up to a point, and then it took a massive difficulty jump towards the end. I'm not complaining, it just would have been nice to have it scale progressively throughout the campaign and not all at once near the end. I perished a lot more in the final 4 missions than I did throughout the rest of the story. Other than that, I found the plot to flow fairly smoothly and relevant to the Star Wars universe. The core of the plot takes place about 4 years after the destruction of the second Death Star. This is seeming to be a popular point in time for EA right now with the games they are producing. Battlefront 2 is in the year following the destruction of Death Star 2, which had an excellent campaign. The base of Squadron's story is solid. I like the way that you switch between the two different viewpoints in the same war. It gave an interesting perspective to the different events going on throughout and how they were interpreted differently between the two sides. I also really appreciated the tie-ins from other properties like Battlefront 2 and Star Wars Rebels.
I've seen too many good pilots. friends turned traitor. I put them out of their misery, but there's always more out there. Iden Versio, Erica Quell, Lyndon Javes. They're not just traitors, they're loose ends. Problems to solve once the war is done.
The main story had a solid flow to it and held my interest throughout the approximately 9 hours of playtime. What drained my interest in a big hurry was the optional side dialogues with the leaders and squad mates. Sections were very poorly edited, having long pauses between lines, and overall just not being fun. These chats did provide some backstory into your mates, but it didn't have enough weight to make me feel emotionally connected or invested into the other pilots. Because of the long pauses between lines, as well as the lacking backstories, these conversations too often were not engaging and seemed to take away from the flow of the game. I found the hub environments on both sides to be beautifully detailed and crafted. I would like to see a small-scale character mobility in the hub spaces, as opposed to just static viewpoints. I would have loved to have walked around the hangars a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. Or go look at a display or out the viewport in the mission briefing rooms. There were a couple times I was left questioning the developers' choices, like leaving stormtroopers on patrol after catastrophic damage to a ship, and the silliness that my character could stand there eavesdropping in plain sight for several dialogue lines before being noticed. There had to be another way to handle these small batches of content. The space environments were, well, space. The ships I was shooting at looked nice as I dumped piles of red and green lasers into them. They exploded in quite an appealing way as well. The planets, moons, and other locations you fly around look really pretty, but you don't get a lot of detail as you're viewing them from thousands of kilometers away. There was one mission briefing on the Imperial side where outside of the viewport you see this beautiful nebula, and it's a sight to behold, but it's a static image and at such a long distance that it's really hard to appreciate. It still looks pretty though. A trip into atmosphere at some point and fly through or over a city and not be exclusively in space would have been a fun change of pace. Not a necessity, but a nicety. It would have been cool to do a transition from surface to space battle, or to have a couple dogfights over a desert as an opportunity to have the environment become more of a factor in combat. The gameplay was superb, however, and I am not complaining, but to change it up a bit if there's a subsequent game or DLC, I would like to see something a little different for environment. Even a surface launch to space battle could be fun if it's mildly interactive and not just a cutscene. Speaking of which, I would like startup scenes to be more interactive. As it stands, you are given 8 or 9 commands to initiate your ship the first time, but only have 2 or 3 inputs to get everything fired up.
Apparently I can't upgrade yet.
Management systems. Check. Alright. I'm loading in your astromech droid now. Keep an eye on it. Quiet, Tin Can. We got a pre-flight check to do.
I really want to play this in VR.
Radar. Working like a dream.
I really want to play this in VR.
Loadout data. Looking good. Combat display? Check. Primary weapons. Charged up. Ready to take down ties. Throttle and boost? Good to go. Hull integrity. Never better. You're welcome. All systems go. Vanguard 5, you are clear for launch. Good luck out there.
Be nice if the pre-flight was more interactive. That would be nice. I would appreciate that.
I think this was really a missed opportunity. Let me look around the cockpit for a button and push it. They could have scripted in a brief pre-flight checklist before each mission, or every time you change sides. That to me would have been more fun than a lot of the side chats with your squad mates. Overall, this was a fantastic experience that I'm glad I had the opportunity to jump into. There were some disappointing elements, missed opportunities, or content bits that just didn't add to the story, but not severe enough to take away from my overall enjoyment of flying these starships. It is a well-crafted piece that I cannot wait to play in VR down the line. And statements have been made that at this time there is no concept for DLC and no plans for a sequel. However, as this is EA, I will believe it when I see it. They made similar statements about Fallen Order, but there has been a free DLC update for that. It may have been free, but it's still DLC. For now, until we see what EA has planned for the future of Squadrons, I'm calling it a smash hit and giving it a 7 out of 10. Have you played Squadrons yet? VR or 2D? Let's discuss in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on any future videos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in fleet battles.